To start with, this was created by the same person who made Rain Again, which I read and immediately scrounged around for more. Having read both of these works by Jeong Seokchan, I can confirm that this creator is a master at short form comics. Just like Rain Again, this is very short. It's longer, but it's still short in the realm of webtoons and comics. It also has a similar dynamic with a sprightly, bright person paired up with a darker, gloomier individual, though it takes both of those identities and turns it up to 1,000. The art is a tad better, though it still has that boxy quality. Again though, there are some really beautiful moments that are worth seeing. Also, once again on my website, I have this marked as mature, but it isn't gratuitous, and I wouldn't categorize it as pornois. There are some sexy scenes though, so it's a super fun time. You will see some nice butts, but there's no other nudity, censored or otherwise. I still wouldn't recommend reading this in public, but there's nothing that will scar anyone who catches a glance. I have to say I am impressed by how balanced Jeong Seokchan's work has been. There are sexy moments, fluffy moments, and pretty despairing moments, but it doesn't dive too far into any of them, which I have to partially attribute to the length of this. If it had been any longer, it could have easily gone too far in any one direction, but it doesn't. Where this really shines is the relationship between our two leads, Dean and Craig. As I've already mentioned, the two leads form a contrasting dynamic with the light Craig and the dark Dean. Both struggle with difficult pasts through means they would rather not be doing. Dean is a gangster assassin, Craig is an overworked part-timer and pseudo-parent to his sibling. However, while Dean struggles with his debilitating mental health and finds himself isolated from the world, Craig goes through life like a bright light, though internally he's drowning in darkness inside too. It's interesting to see how blatantly one wears their internal struggles on their outward appearance, while the other hides them away behind a bright facade. So, in reality, two people who might be considered opposites are more alike than they may seem at a glance. Finally, I have to talk about how beautifully the title is incorporated into the story. There's a saying or belief that if someone can fold 1,000 paper cranes, their wish will come true. Craig tells a brief account of when he once folded 1,000 paper cranes for his wish to come true, and though he didn't get his wish, he ultimately enjoyed the process in the end. Craig also explains that as a kid, he was called a crane because of his long, gawky features. This leads Dean to ask Craig for just one crane. He doesn't need 1,000, just one, implying that in Craig giving himself over to Dean will grant all of his wishes. To say my heart fluttered is an understatement. This is a moment that lives rent-free in my head, and I love to revisit it simply because it gives all of the feels. It's a fluffy moment for sure, but it lays out the desperation and power dynamics between them. Craig is willing to work himself to death to achieve freedom and happiness. Dean wants nothing in terms of wealth, but he desperately needs a light to hang on to keep himself going, and is willing to do anything for it. Traditionally, the tale of the paper cranes is about making 1,000 paper cranes for a god to get a wish. Dean says he only needs one, which puts him in the role of the god, with the power to grant Craig's wishes and in turn, stop him from needlessly working himself to death to achieve his goals.